I fear no shrubbery.
I feel it only poignant to pick up where we left off with that Game of the Year video. I am Couch Coop, and we're going to look at the Borderlands series. This is number 4 of the top couch co-op PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games of all time. This is the geniuses at IGN talking about the game back in 2014.
Borderlands is not the easiest game to describe to someone. On the surface, it looks like your standard first-person shooter with an eccentric art style. In reality, it actually combines the first-person gameplay with the loot drop mechanics of action role-playing games like Diablo.
How funny is that? It's pre-looter shooter. The word hadn't been around or invented. No one had coined it. You'd think that they would have put 2 and 2 together. You're shooting loads, the stuff on the ground. It did take a little while to sort of gather momentum. I don't know if it was Gearbox that dreamt up the looter shooter term, but it was certainly Borderlands 1 that kicked off that whole genre. What a game. The original was remastered and re-released about 3 years ago. That's what we're looking at here, and they did a 1080, gave us at least 60 frames per second. Hand on heart, I have not played this remastered version on the PlayStation 5, so that might come up in the channel next year. It's probably worth a visit, and probably should have done it for this video.
I got one I've been saving for you.
But we've got some footage, horizontal split notice, but this is where it was born for me. It is a little bit of a blur back on my Xbox 360 to really place when my mates came round and we actually first sat down and saw those numbers diving out of people we were shooting at and all that amazing rare loot, and just the fact that we were in cahoots taking down these huge expansive maps. It felt very liberating first time round. Borderlands 1 at the time, 2014, was released into a very sterile shooter environment. It was a complete breath of fresh air with its attitude. It was a very offensive game with a lot of stereotypes in. It lampooned the sort of seriousness of the shooter genre at the time. What I can remember with absolute crystal clarity is the day I got the Handsome Collection on my new PlayStation 4 and had memories of Borderlands 2 on the Xbox 360 being an okay game but having massive performance issues, struggling here and there. When we got this over on that current gen system at the time, it was a real mind blower. Things were smooth, everything worked, and they injected so much DLC. You've got to understand that Borderlands 2 ran its DLC for about 3 years. Huge packs, loads of installations, and some of them were absolutely amazing. One of them was called the pre-sequel, and it was based in space with low gravity, amazing vehicles, and almost moon-like lunar bases that you had to take down. It was so excellent, and they really haven't gone forward in any of these outlandish directions since. This was also where Tiny Tina's was born. It was a piece of DLC, and they obviously got big numbers on it because of what's come to fruition with the Borderlands games that are available nowadays. They also never really pushed on this bugs and insects thing. I was fascinated by this. They metamorphosize in these pods and come out as a larger bug in these like massive arenas fighting these alien doll-like strange creatures. The whole thing was off the hook. Can we bring some of this back, please? So this is a bit depressing. One of my first couch co-op videos I ever made featured the Handsome Collection, and it featured a song by the Vines that is on the game itself. Now at the time I wasn't monetized and I didn't really check back. Things got very busy on the channel over those next 2 years, but looking at what this got on the numbers, you can lift stuff out now and not have to go through the copyright, which I didn't spot. That's about $1,000. That's about 1,500 quid. Very expensive choice, but a damn good tune, and a little story behind it which I might go into one day. Please don't go and look at that video and add to the depression that is probably the 3rd biggest YouTube video I've ever made. There you go, it's your first YouTuber who's told you not to look at one of his videos. Are those numbers a reflection on couch co-op and split screen sort of becoming unpopular, or people losing interest in the subject? I don't think so. A lot of my early YouTube success was there because no one had come up with the idea of putting local co-op lists together. I have a lot more competition now, and of course I'm put on a bit of a back burner, I think, with the algorithm, because I love the old copywritten content. What have you got us looking at now? Okay, this one is a big explanation. This is the Assault on Dragon's Keep DLC that we were talking about on Borderlands 2, the Handsome Collection, as a standalone edition playing on a PlayStation 5. Oof. So the cool thing is it's a really crisp 1080 and a massively pegged 60 frames per second. little bit of loading on the shop items, but it's just a real joy to see it running on that machine again, and I put a whole video out about it. It's worth a look because it's damn cheap, and it may have even gone free on the PlayStation Network. And just as a reminder, it's by far the strongest piece of DLC the Hanson Collection had on it, because they just took the whole Dungeons and Dragons geek angle, sword and sorcery, and brilliantly blended it. I don't know if they've gone a little bit too far with Wonderlands. This is so the sweet spot with that subject matter. Okay, talking of sweet spots, and holy crap. If you've never seen this game running on a PlayStation 5 before, on performance mode, in split screen, horizontal, those are things all need to be in place. It is a true blaster of the mind, and one of the flagship PlayStation 5 titles that I own, both single player and local co-op. But this local co-op fighting and the chaos, the powers, the dissipation mechanics, the blood, the gore, the explosions, the elements, I could go on for about 10 minutes. It's an eye bleeder. Me and my mates are always like, after we do a level, we're like, whoa. You know, we kind of look at each other and just think, we're in the freaking future. Here's another depressing fact. I am by far the oldest gamer that I know by a square goddamn mile. Despite its obvious social disadvantages, it does have its couch co-op and split screen advantages, because I can see over the whole landscape of time, going back to 2001, how this genre has changed, upgraded, even devolved, i.e. gone back a few paces, what with all the COD shenanigans. But I think it's a unique place to be in, and I don't see a lot of content creators who are as long in the tooth as myself, who have this much experience with local co-op and split screen gaming. And that's why I kind of are doing these lists, because I want to show you all how far back a lot of couch co-op games actually go, and that this format was around 10-15 years ago, and in some cases there was more content around and more to do.
You wanna go?
This is Captain Tron's personal log.
Why do I feel that Borderlands 3 is so important? Well, I look at it like this. We're living in an age where they're really good at screwing things up on a sequel level, and really just wringing stuff too dry, not coming up with enough fresh ideas, or moving the original ideas to such a ridiculous place that the whole damn thing's just not recognizable anymore. What they did with 3 was turn the volume up incredibly, and that's all we really needed. And that's where you see some of the best sequels in gaming, is where they look at the pillars and the strong aspects and refine them and push them all in the correct direction. I don't think Borderlands 4 is going to look anything like this. I think it's going to go Nerf gun, bow and arrow, skelly bones like we see in Wonderlands, with the odd blaspheme here and there. I would love to see the numbers and the data of who accesses split screen modes in a AAA game like this, because Randy's probably sitting in his misogyny hut trying to work out whether they put it into the next one, whether it's worth the time to put on the devs to make sure that this mode is, you know, pushed out with the campaign, not just a tack on piece of crap. Which puts me over to the hugely lackluster DLC announcements and all that's been coming up for Borderlands 3. Gearbox need to get back to what they did with that and come up with some crazy, outlandish, off-the-wall environments and enemies that really just make you want to fire that game up again. And with all of these powerful machines and really cool engines, they could go to town with a great idea and location. I want to see more from Gearbox on the innovation front with this game format, because we're coming up to a decade and not too much has been pushed in to make it more desirable. I do want to say a special well done to Gearbox though for flying the flag for so many years and really keeping channels like mine afloat, because there's loads of interest in this subject matter, and having a AAA split screen looter shooter come out in 2022 was absolutely awesome. So well done guys, not you Randy.
Did you really think I would stay?
I've also broken a promise with the length of the video. I did say 20-minute format for the top 5, but I clearly cannot pedal this video out any longer without repeating or going over this game way too much. It's a big one for the channel. Loads of videos have been spent on it. And help me out, I've got 3 games left. 2 of them I've decided on, but I'm all in a tiz about the 3rd slot. I've got about 7 games that need to be shoehorned in, and I need to get the list finished by the end of the year. I want to wrap it all up for you guys so you've got a nice 25 massive, comprehensive guide to every single couch co-op and split screen game on the market. I have been Couch Coop, alright? I will see you all down there.